he's on top. Million subs, he never gonna flop. Out of Chicago, where the streets don't sleep. Betting on games, making cash real deep. Crystal ball for sports, he knows the lines. He's a sports aficionado, the money he finds. From football to basketball, he's always on point. Predicting winners never disappoints. He's got that hustle, that Chicago vibe. Making moves on the streets, cash on the side. With E, you know it's always a bet. He's the king of the game, never forget.
Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for March 11th. How is everyone doing? My name is Erik. I'm the man behind Etoft21sports. Absolutely loaded episode for you today. My boy from the hotbed of Austin, Texas, King Midas Bets, aka Taylor, is on. Him and I are going to look at some conference basketball for Wednesday, share some bets. Unfortunately, Gino is living the high life out in Vegas. He's there for DRF covering the NHC. So he's going to be providing content for that. So make sure to check that out. So let's jump right into it. But before we do that, thank you to the sponsor of the show, justouttennis.store. Go there, use promo code ETOFT21 for 10% off, and Prop Hack X. Go there, 2% back on all your bets for the first month. Use promo code ETOFT21. Now, let's welcome King Midas Bets to the show. Tyler, how you doing today, my man?
Doing good, man. Would have been doing better if Virginia Tech had come through.
I'll tell you what, man. That game was utterly frustrating. Why don't you tell everyone your situation with that game?
All right. So I'm on Virginia Tech +4. Sent that out to my VIPs this morning. Felt really good about it. Felt like they had a great chance of winning the game straight up. I'm not able to watch it live. I'm following it on my tracker. And I see the game's over and Virginia Tech is up 1. But sometimes the tracker can be a little bit off on the time. And Cal gets awarded a free throw or 2 free throws. And so I either need them to make both or miss both. I'm fine if they win by 1. I'm fine if they lose by 1. I don't want overtime. And they miss the first one, make the second one. Game gets tied, I believe, at 60. Goes to overtime. They're playing tough. We get to the end of overtime, tied again. Now we're going to double overtime. And Virginia Tech gets smoked by Cal in double overtime, and the +4 goes down, even though 100% on the right side of that game. But
it was just brutal. Like I was on them too. I didn't get as good a number with you. I thought, excuse me, that it was going to go the other way because Cal was coming off that double overtime game. There's a bad call I think in the first overtime when Cal guy was going up for a layup. Didn't look like it was a block. Didn't look like it was a foul. They called a foul. And then Tech just with the most putrid out of bounds play at the end of the game. Just absolutely putrid. And then at the end of the first overtime, they run a play. The guy completely just threw it out of bounds. And to me, I know everyone likes Mike Young. I know everyone thinks he's this great coach and everyone has these high opinions of him. But to me, certain stuff comes down to how you execute in the clutch.
Exactly. Situational basketball.
And if you guys are making these basic basketball mistakes, it is just brutal. And it really tells me a lot about how good of a coach you are during those simple mistakes. So unfortunately, I was on the wrong end of the stick. I'm going to need a miracle right now because I'm on Florida State minus the points. And it's 62-61 with 6 seconds left. So it looks like it's going to be a rough day. It looks like Kansas State at 4.5 was the only thing I hit today. But new day tomorrow. We each got 3 bets. I don't know if you saw the end of the Pitt game. So Pitt was playing Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had the ball tied up. Kid drove to his right, threw it up, missed it. Kid from Notre Dame went up, missed the tap. Everyone thought it was going to overtime, but an official called a foul. Now, they went to replay. on ACC Network. The kid wasn't even touched. Like literally wasn't even touched. And obviously goes to the line, makes it. And like, look, I was I'm pissed off about it. But let's look at the other end of it. You have kids. Pitt's not good. Pitt's not going to the NIT. They're not going to the Fox tournament that's at the end of the year. Their season's done. So kids' careers are over because of that call.
Yeah.
So that was the first time I think there needs to be like a challenge or review system when it comes to like calls. That was the first, like I've never really thought that before, but that was the first time I thought that.
Maybe if it's in the last minute of the game or something, there can be a challenge because, you don't have time to overcome it if it's in the last minute. I know a bad call is a bad call at any point, but if somebody makes a bad call with 18 minutes left in the game, you have plenty of time to recover. But when you're in that situational last minute of the game, you gotta get those calls right.
Especially like you're on that, and I'm like in that with everything on you. And like, look, I'm not saying. I honestly think I don't think like it was in cahoots or anything, but we saw it with the Chiefs this year in the NFL. Like anytime there's like a bad call, people just immediately go to he's on the take. You know what I mean? And that's just not a good look for absolutely anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that suggestion by yours, like in the last minute of the game, being able to have a replay, like, hey, we're going to go to this, we're going to check it out. And, if we reverse it, we reverse it. I don't know, like they'll have to figure out, like, do you go to the possession arrow then? Do you just go to like a jump ball? Like there'll have to be like some sort of what happens or who gets the ball or whatever. But
and if you go possession arrow, there's a decent amount of luck involved with that too. You get screwed on a bad call, you go to the possession arrow, and it's still going against you. I don't know.
I mean, this one was bad. This one was like really one of the worst ones I've seen in a while. And then, yeah, I mean, other than that, Delaware. Did Delaware win today? Delaware had a chance to go to the big dance. They were playing Wilmington. Last time I saw it, they were down.
I'm pretty sure Wilmington won. Yeah, Wilmington won by 4.
Wilmington won by 4. Do you have any? Because I have a mid-major that I absolutely am in love with. I hope they get into the dance. Do you have anyone you are really looking into that, like, oh my God, I really hope this team gets into?
Yeah, absolutely. I bet on them today. They covered for me, and it's Robert Morris.
Little Bob, you like Bob Morris?
Bob Morris. They beat Youngstown by 11 today. They were only 3.5-point favorites in that game. They're just a really solid team. They're 25-8. I think they can hang with anybody. Honestly, I'm a fan. I think they can make some. I mean, they're obviously not going to be a high seed. I think they can give somebody a game. They're just a very good, consistent team.
UC San Diego for me, my friend.
Okay.
That's the team I really like. Obviously Drake, but I think Drake is kind of like, I don't know. You know what I mean? I think like, even though they have a new coaching staff, people are going to recognize the name. I also really hope Utah State gets in.
Oh, absolutely. Utah State, if people don't stay up and actually watch college basketball on West Coast, late night college basketball, Utah State has amazing fans. They pack that gym the entire season. They wear all white. They get rowdy. They've got a solid team, and those fans deserve it as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and High Point got in. I would love to see High Point against Kentucky because Kentucky can't stop shit.
Yeah.
So let's jump into it. We each have 3 bets. Before we do that, let's look at how we did last week on the show. For 1-1 last week with Ty hitting Maryland plus 114, pushing Wisconsin -7, losing Marquette and UConn over 144.5. Old Uncle Rico hit Maryland plus 1.5, Ole Miss plus 3.5, and Oklahoma plus 4.5 for the show. We are 17-6-1.
Giving away money.
Not too bad. Not too bad. Had a good week last week. Unfortunately, pushed Wisconsin. Got a little dicey at the end. But you know what? We made money. We're in the positive, so we can't really complain. But a good thing since we switched over to college b-ball. We each have 3. You are the guest, my friend. I will let you kick it off first.
All right. Sounds good. I'm going with Arkansas -3. This game is tomorrow. It's kind of earlier in the day. All of my picks are going to be tomorrow, and I think they're all somewhat early. So don't sleep on those. South Carolina is just a really bad team, and sometimes in these tournaments, everybody has a shot, but a lot of these teams, they're done with the season. They're not going to be involved in any postseason play. There's no way they're going to, like in the SEC, is the best conference. South Carolina's not reeling off a number of victories in a row, whereas Arkansas has a lot to play for. They're kind of on the bubble and could play their way into the tournament. It's not necessarily neutral sites, but away from home, South Carolina is 1-10 this season. So just awful. They're 2-8 overall in their last 10 games. If you look at their points per game, they're 289th. And Arkansas is tightening up the defense as the season goes on. And so I think that South Carolina is just going to really struggle to score. Interestingly enough, these teams just played each other not long ago. And South Carolina, I just said they're 2-8 in their last 10. One of those was against Arkansas, and they absolutely smoked Arkansas. Arkansas played their worst game of the season. And I think I think that's keeping that line down some. But this is a huge opportunity for Arkansas to come back, say that was a throwaway game. They shot 14% from 3 that game. They shot 29% from the field. Just a complete, they didn't fire. It's just awful. They lost points in the paint 38-18. I think you're going to see them come out and try to correct that tomorrow. Like I said, with everything on the line, it would not surprise me if Arkansas wins this game by double digits, and you're only laying 3.
Yeah, I mean that was South Carolina. Arkansas coming off a win over Missouri, overtime win over Texas on a Wednesday. Then you fly to play that Saturday early morning 11. Sorry, I'm in the Central Time Zone. Sorry,
Me too.
You know what I mean? So that was kind of a spot of spots there. So yeah, I completely agree with you. And also, I think Arkansas needs to win this game to actually solidify. My boy, let's make some money. You and San Diego State, they're going out. Yeah, come on, man. They're Sweet 16. Here we come. Yeah, okay. Could the Zags make a run? Now, Zags to me are a really interesting team. You look at their stuff on KenPom, really ranked high analytically, but at the luck metric, one of the most unluckiest teams in the nation. Do you think the Zags could kind of put it together and kind of like make a Sweet 16 run, or
Yeah, I've watched them a fair amount this year, and I haven't walked away that impressed. I'm actually opposite of them tonight. I'm on St. Mary's. I don't think they've had so many better teams, and they've been close. Could they make a Sweet 16 run? Sure. Are they going to go farther than that? I don't see it. When they get matched up against the big boys, I think that this is probably their worst team in I don't even know how long, 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't see it this year.
Gino is in Vegas. Go White, my friend. And yes, OK State did shit the bed, but you know what? I wasn't on them. I stayed the hell away from that game.
If you bet on bad teams, hey, I mean, bad teams have nothing to play for.
I bet them on Sunday. You know what? After that bet with OK State, I wiped my hands. I was done with them.
I think the portal adds a whole nother element to that, because not only are they some bad teams with nothing to play for? A lot of those guys know they're out the door, and the next time the portal opens, they're not even trying to impress anybody anymore.
Which I have an angle on that in one of my bets.
All right.
And I am sorry. I have this at Oklahoma plus 3.5 for tomorrow against. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me. I have Oklahoma plus 3.5 against Georgia. Porter Moser excels in these tournament settings, 58% ATS. When we look at Georgia this season, 345th in road performance per Haslam metrics, 5 and 8 ATS in road and neutral site games. Rebounding mismatch. Look, is Georgia huge? Yes, but they're 345th in defensive rebounding since February 1st. How is that even possible? Sam Goodwin likely to play for Oklahoma, which is huge. He's going to be their bet. He is their best rebounder, going to be able to limit Georgia's second chance points. Turnover advantage, obviously, for Oklahoma. Georgia's guards struggle with turnovers, 294th in turnovers per game. Oklahoma elite, one of the best teams at forcing turnovers, leading to extra possessions, obviously extra points. Games like this, it's hard for me to trust Georgia. 184th in the country in free throw shooting. Georgia, 216th in 3-point shooting. I'm a big shooting regression guy. 216th in 3-point shooting, 31% for the year. Last 4 games, shooting 41%. So obviously that's going to come back to the norm a little bit. I expect those to not hit. Expect a little regression. Matchup advantage for the Oklahoma guards. Georgia lacks the backcourt talent to contain Fears and everybody else. I don't have no idea who's going to be able to guard them. Oklahoma needs this game, I feel, to secure their NCAA tournament. I think Georgia's in. I think Oklahoma needs to win at least this one to get in. And look, for as good as Moser is, this is going to be his 4th year if he doesn't get into the tournament. I think he's coaching for his job. I think he really needs to win this. I'm not high on White. I think Moser's a better coach. I think they have better guards. I think they're going to be able to hang rebounding wise. I'm going to take Oklahoma here, plus 3.5, man.
Got it.
Next bet, my friend. And after you talk about West Virginia, I have a question about them for you.
Absolutely. So this is not a West Virginia bet as much as it is a Colorado fade. Colorado shouldn't even be in this game. They should have lost to TCU. They had no business winning that game, but they played well enough. They won. They almost gave it away at the end. Colorado has the 308th ranked offense in the nation. That is just about as bad as you can get. And this is a terrible matchup for them because West Virginia doesn't do a lot right, but they play defense. They have the 30th ranked defense. They can just dominate a team with as bad of an offense as Colorado. Adding to that, Colorado is 0-10 away. Once again, this is a neutral site, so away doesn't necessarily translate. But when they get out of their home gym, they don't win. I mean, 0-10. One of the things that I look at in the conference tournaments is, when somebody's maybe trying to pull an upset is, well, do they shoot a lot of threes? Can they hit a lot of threes? Is that a risk factor? And they're terrible from 3. I mean, so there's nothing to be scared of there. I will backtrack a little bit on that and say that's how they beat TCU today. They shot 41% from 3. But to your point earlier about regressing to the mean, I think the odds that they come out and shoot well above their average on 3, which is the only way they can win, again, I just don't see it. Fade the terrible team with nothing to play for. Fade the 308th ranked offense in the nation, especially against a tough defense.
Now, I think DeVries has done a great job, just phenomenal job. And this has been without his son there. They relied on Small to transfer from OK State. Do you think DeVries is going to leave West Virginia to go take over for Fran? Or do you think he's going to stay at West Virginia?
I think he's going to stay at West Virginia. I don't know that they were serious. They would seriously be looking at him with the resume that he put together this year. They're looking a little bit better than maybe they were because they've won 3 out of the last 4. They've won, I think, 5 out of the last 7, something like that. So they're kind of like hitting their stride at the right time. But if you go back, 3 weeks, their record really wasn't that great. They weren't impressing anybody. Maybe you could make a case and say they're getting better as the year goes along. I certainly like betting them right now for that reason. But from a coaching change standpoint, I mean, the offense is bad. I mean, I wouldn't be betting them against unless they were playing an equally bad offense. Just, yeah. No, I don't see it personally. Could be wrong.
I think what he's done has been great. I mean, battling a lot of injuries, Big 12 is tough, which brings me to another question. Last year we saw the Big 12, obviously, except for Houston, kind of struggle. Is the Big 12 not good?
That's really tough. I mean, I think Houston's going to be there till the end this year. I think Texas Tech has a real shot at making the Final Four. But there's a lot of bad teams this year. I mean, UCF, Colorado, West Virginia is pretty average. The TCU is not very good. Arizona State's not very good. There's a lot of bad teams in the Big 12, and we're not that far removed from it being the best conference in the country. I think it's just going to depend. The swing teams are going to be like Kansas and Arizona, and maybe they're going to have a good tournament. They have enough firepower to do it, but Big 12's fallen off hard. I think what's happened is a lot of that TV money and NIL money to get the best coaches and the best players has shifted to the Big 10 and the SEC. And the SEC is maybe the best conference in the history of basketball, college basketball this year. And you're seeing the Big 12 and the ACC, other than Duke, regress.
ACC is bad. ACC is really, really, really bad.
But imagine saying that 6 or 7 years ago. Imagine saying the ACC is a bad conference in basketball.
Which is absurd. Like, I was actually thinking about that when I was on the Peloton the other day. It was like, ACC is going to get Louisville, who we don't – I'll be honest, like, when you look at Louisville's record, are they a little bit of a paper towel? Because who have they beaten? You're going to get them, Clemson, and Duke in.
Yeah.
Like, when you look back and think about how good this conference used to be, I remember when we were growing up, like, oh my God, the ACC championship game is on primetime Saturday. I have to be locked in for this. And now it's just kind of like,
It's the same demise that happened to the Big East. Then it has kind of gone, the ACC has gone the same way. So the Big East and ACC were the top dogs, and then Big 12 for a while was really solid. Everything's about money now. I mean, it's always been about money to a certain extent, but now that you can just pay players, it's not a coincidence that the SEC got really good at basketball, and people were talking about 12 teams from the SEC making the tournament. That it's not a coincidence that happened as soon as they could start paying players.
Yeah, because there's so much.
They got the money.
Did you see there's this rumor that the Big East and ACC could join?
Merge.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's trying to do something to compete with the Big 10 and the SEC, and they're trying to save themselves because there's even talk, and it's more football than basketball, of the Big 10 and the SEC basically forming their own new, like, there is no Division I anymore. It's them and then everybody else.
Yeah.
Which I don't think that that's going to happen, but I think that in the back of their minds that, a lot of the ACC, Big 12, what will be the new Pac-12, they're all looking at this thinking we're going to be second-class citizens where we can't even play for the national championship if we don't band together and do something.
When I read about the ACC Big East, it said there'd be a relegation system.
So that's really what needs to happen, in my opinion. And I have a lot of people who are fans of big name. This is more football talk, but fans of big name teams. What they don't realize, outside of maybe 10 or 15 absolute blue blood programs, there is a lot of shifting in terms of who's considered good at football. I mean, there are teams that people would easily say, yeah, that's a top 20. Like if we're going to take the top 30 and make a top league of that, there's teams that are easily in the top 30 that if you did that same exercise 20 years ago would not have been in the top 30. So there has to be some upward mobility for teams that invest more in their program. I'll give you an example right now. Texas Tech might be on the outside looking in if you were to say, yeah, we're going to form a top 30. Texas Tech probably not in the top 30. They just invested $600 million in facilities. Are you going to tell them like that's just all wasted money?
Yeah.
They have no chance of moving up. You have to have a promotion and relegation system like most of the big soccer leagues have. At least, if a team drops off for a number of years, get them out.
Yeah.
Replace them with the teams that are making investments in their programs. I mean, you can go. It's not that far removed from Kansas State basically just being horrendous. Florida and Florida State were not good programs. I mean, if you go back far enough, they would have just never had a chance. Boise State in the playoffs, they're not that far removed from being an FCS team. Teams get better and improve.
Yeah. My next bet.
Yep.
But
Georgetown.
Rewind real quick. How would you do that though? You know what I mean? I think it's a great idea. Like, I think there should be like a relegation system for college football. I know we're segueing right now.
Yeah.
But that'd be really interesting. But then again, like, what happens to like the Mid-American Conference, Conference USA, those conferences? Do they just kind of like, and how many tiers are there?
There'd have to be a lot of tiers. So you wouldn't be able to do it by conference, but maybe you take 24 teams, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do it that way, there would maybe be like 5 tiers, but you could even do FCS below that and you could break FCS into 2 or 3 tiers. I mean, the English football pyramid is like 13 tiers.
Uh-huh.
But it gives everybody a legit shot to play for something. And ultimately, teams in the 3rd tier, let's say, so that would be like the teams that are like the 50th to 75th
Michigan
best.
State football. Michigan State football. Yeah.
They have more to play for in that system to get promoted into that year than they do in the current structure where they play a meaningless bowl game where half their players have opted out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you can't play for a national championship, but you can work your way up the ladder.
Yeah.
And there's something to maybe you're not the national champ, but you were the 3rd level champ, and now you're moving up to the 2nd level, and you're playing a whole new set of better teams.
And whoever finished last, they relegate down.
And I would probably do, like, if you were going to do 24 teams, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
You'd have 2 or 3 going up or down every year. And
I think
it'd be great.
Like, I'm always in for change. I'm always willing to try something. And I definitely think that would be an innovative way to try something for college football, because how college football is moving, I don't like the direction.
No, nobody does. Nobody likes this. And I know I just said this, but once you get outside the playoffs, going to a bowl game doesn't even mean anything anymore because all the players have opted out. And so whether they're going, it's not just if they're going to go to the NFL, it's they're testing their market value in the portal.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, 12 teams make the playoff or whatever. Well, that leaves 120-ish teams that just really don't have anything to play for.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're and getting people to tune in. Now, I know people are going to tune in because of gambling. I get it. I understand it.
Mm-hmm.
What you and I do, whatever. But like getting people to like tune in for it, getting people to go there and pay money.
Yeah.
It's a big thing. All right, sorry. We segue there for a little bit. My next bet. I am going to Big East Country here. Give me the Hoyas. Give me Georgetown -3.5. Rebounding advantage for Georgetown. DePaul, 281st in defensive rebounding, 335th in offensive rebounding for since the month of February per Bartovic. I think Georgetown is going to be able to get some second chance points. I don't think they're going to be challenged on the glass. I don't think DePaul is going to be able to get any second chance points. DePaul's defense, 45.6% shooting from the field. It's a bad defense, dude. Georgetown's going to be able to attack the rim. Jesus, I can't talk. Exploit their weaknesses. DePaul, their whole offense is just 3-point line, chuck it and pray. That's basically their offense. They have no interior guys or any guys off the bounce that can create. Georgetown is good at defending the perimeter. But when we look at the thing, DePaul really doesn't even shoot the three effectively. So what they're trying to do really doesn't play to the strengths of what they have. Prevy is huge for Georgetown. He's averaging 23 his last 10. Mack, great at creating scoring opportunities to exploit DePaul's weakness, especially at the guard position. Georgetown 17-13 ATS this season. DePaul 3-7 last 10. Game's going to be at MGS. I think this is going to be a Georgetown crowd. I think with their with Georgetown's size, their ability to take away the three, and DePaul's just lackluster defense, I think this is just the Hoya spot. Give me the Hoyas -3.5, dude.
I kind of like it. So if you remember me saying that Arkansas just got smoked by South Carolina, and then you're going to take the other side of it.
Yeah.
Georgetown's better than DePaul. They're a better team than DePaul. They just lost at DePaul.
Yep.
So now going back to a neutral site with that extra motivation, I think you're onto something.
And we just saw it. Hell, we even saw it today. Cincinnati was 2.5 point dogs Saturday at Oklahoma State. I was like, shit, I'm going to be able to get Cincinnati at -4, maybe -5 today against Oklahoma State in the bounce back. Game opened up at 6.5. Cincinnati bounced them. Game wasn't even close. So just like you mentioned, better team in a tournament setting. We got to roll with them. And I'm not going to lie, I'm a little mad. This was one of my bets, but I'm giving it to you, the one that you're talking about right now, my friend.
Well, I'm from Austin, so you got to give it to me since the Longhorns are involved. Vanderbilt. So this is an interesting one. I've watched a lot of Texas Longhorn basketball this year just because that's the town that I'm in. And I've seen Vanderbilt a fair amount as well. And just from watching the games, appearance, Vanderbilt seems like a much, much better team than Texas. So one thing that was interesting is when I looked them up on KenPom, just to see where the analytics were, it's number 45 versus number 46. They could not be more even. But when you look at the recent performance, Texas has lost 4 out of 5. They just got smoked at home by Oklahoma in what was considered a must-win game. Despite them not really being very good, Texas was considered a team that can play their way in. Maybe they still are. But when the games have mattered the most down the stretch, they've lost 4 out of 5. They've lost on their home court in a must-win game to Oklahoma. This team just doesn't have much of that it factor. They played great, won a road game against Mississippi State, and then just come right back and fall flat. I think Vandy's the better team. The last time they played earlier in the year, Vandy won by 8. And there's just no confidence in Rodney Terry as the Longhorns coach right now. Pretty much everybody wants him out. Feels like the players, his job's on the line. They're going to play for the coach. No, they lost 4 out of 5. It's like they don't even want him there. So I'm going to go with Vanderbilt. Texas is certainly good enough to win this game. But they haven't been doing anything in the last 2 weeks that would make me do anything other than fade them.
Who will be the Longhorns coach next season?
So don't make me say his name because it's too long. If the first call I'd make is the Iowa State coach. He's done a hell of a job.
All right. You won't believe what I heard, but go ahead.
No, I like him, and the Clemson coach as well. But Clemson guy is from Indiana, and that job being open, I think that he might be a top candidate there. And then, I think people are mostly joking around when they say Will Wade. I think he's headed out most likely to NC State. NC State just fired their coach after being in the Final Four last year. And Texas is way too corporate to touch a guy with any type of history. So I'm gonna go with the Iowa State coach whose name
I know exactly what you're talking about.
I couldn't spell it.
So yeah, Wade's gonna stay in the Southeast. Like he's not gonna go to Texas. NC State is perfect for him.
Yeah.
Now, but NC State and Texas similar. You have the coach comes in. Oh, no, sorry. NC State needed to go on a run, won the tournament.
Yep.
Made a deep run. Coach got another year, kind of a lost year.
Yeah.
And then, the whole Bird stuff happened. Chris Beard stuff happened.
Yep.
He got let go. Terry came in. He was just going to be the intern. But then they made it to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
And they were forced to kind of keep him.
Yep.
And now they are kind of like grinding out this season with him when I don't think he was the best possible candidate.
Texas got stuck with him. I mean, it's the bottom line. In that situation where the interim coach, who was the assistant, takes over, it never works out well. Rodney Terry is a great guy. Nobody will ever say anything negative about him as a human. But he was the coach at UTEP for a while, the head coach. Never did anything. I mean, you would have never picked a guy who was maybe 500 at UTEP to go coach a team in a major conference. It's basically the richest school in the country who can pay anybody. This is not who you would have picked. But the worst thing that could have happened for Texas was that Elite Eight run because they got stuck with him. And then it's hard to get rid of him. And then they gave him an extension.
Yeah.
He's just not very good. The offense is just awful to watch.
It just reminded me because my whole thought, we were supposed to have this weekend takeaway that we totally forgot to do.
I got it if you want it.
Totally on me, which we're going to go to. We're going to stop the bets. We're going to go to the takeaway. Then I'll go to my last bet. Okay. They're not. What I think they're going to do is they're not going to go for a mid-major guy because they went to Shaka Smart, who I think is a great coach.
Yep.
But his brand of ball doesn't work there. Doesn't work in Texas.
That's right.
Now, you said something very key. Texas, big school, lots of money.
Lots of money. Lots of money.
Lots of money. When you look in that little region of the country, who's the best coach, the most successful coach, and who's had 2 down years? Bill Self.
There has been talk of it, and Texas likes. And I know Shaka was a little bit different, but the Beard hire was more their normal hire. Proven coach at a Power 5. I know that's not really a thing anymore, but like a Power 5 type school. They're well vetted. They know they can handle the media attention. Texas basketball right now doesn't get a lot of media attention, but as soon as they're good, being in a big city, lots of media attention. They like that like CEO type hire. And if Kansas is ready to make a move, Chris Del Conte, the Texas athletic director, it would not surprise me if he made. I mean, he'd be bringing a national championship coach to the team. And I think there would be very mixed reactions in Austin about it.
I think they love it. I think it would work out great. So I'm gonna give my last bet. I'm getting my last bet. We're gonna go to the takeaways. That's totally my F up. Then we're gonna go to the bonus bet you have. So my last bet is I'm doing it. I'm taking Rutgers plus 1.5. And you made a comment earlier about the portal and everything. To me, USC feels like a team. Everybody knows that Yates and Claude are back next year, and no one else is. To me, that's how it feels in Los Angeles, and that's why I'm going to take Rutgers. USC ranks near the bottom per Bartolovic when you look at the Big Ten teams. The only team since the month of February that USC ranks better than Washington, not in the tournament, not in the Big Ten tournament. Nebraska, not in the Big Ten tournament. Minnesota, who got in luckily to the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah.
USC, 298th field goal defense, 145th in 3-point season defense for the season. Look at it. Since February, 352nd in the nation in 2-point defense. Who the flying hell is stopping Ace Bailey or Dylan Harper? Rutgers offensive edge. When we look at it, last time they played, which was like at the beginning of February, Claude dropped 23. Claude 30, Yates 23. USC shot 47% in that game from deep, and they still lost by 11, and the game was never close. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think that USC has enough of the firepower. When we look at home and away, Haslametrics has USC 315th best road team. They performed awful outside the state of California. Defense allows 47.3% shooting on the road. Rutgers is going to be able to attack the rim. Rutgers should be able to win the rebounding battle, leading to second chance points. And the way to attack Rutgers is the interior. USC lacks bigs. Rutgers has been the better team down the stretch. USC, to me, looks like Musselman's more focused on building next year's team. And Ace Bailey's a dude. I know everyone talks about Dylan Harper. Ace Bailey is a dude. He's played in every game. He's not going to want to end his college career in 2 big games. I expect a huge performance from them. And I kind of feel like they're going to have the home crowd. People are going to be in Indy wanting to see, Harper, Bailey, top 2 of the top 3 picks, top 5 picks in the draft. We're going to be rooting for these guys. USC traveling across country. They're just like, let's just get the fuck out of here. I don't know. I think Rutgers is going to put it together. I think they're going to get this one done. I mean, did I sprinkle a little bit on them at 60-1 to win the Big Ten? Yeah. They have the 2 best guys. You know what I mean? They're always going to have the 2 best guys on the court.
You see it all the time where teams make a run because they've got the star player. And so I think Rutgers is probably a little bit better than their record too, because Harper missed some time earlier in the season. Yeah. They dropped some games that they wouldn't have dropped without him.
So I'm going to do it. Give me Rutgers here plus 1.5. Now, I've done so many of these shows. I totally forgot on doing the takeaway. So let's go back. What is your takeaway from over the weekend, my friend?
Gotcha. So we've got teams that are punching their cards to the big dance now in some of the smaller tournaments. And what happens for the more casual fan is they get the bracket when it's said and done, and there's a bunch of teams that they barely heard of. They can't tell you where they're located, and those are your potential Cinderella stories. But what they don't realize is that a lot of times the teams that are making it out at these one-bid leagues, there's only one team from that. Whoever wins the tournament's getting in, isn't the best team. A lot of times it's the 5th or 6th best team, and they wouldn't really know the difference between that team or the first best team in that particular league. And what's happened this year is really fortunate for the NCAA tournament, the actual big dance, because the teams that should get in, that are the most deserving, they're one of the better teams in their conference. Not every time, but most of them are the ones that are actually getting in. And that's a great thing for the tournament. Like I said, your average casual fan will not know the difference. But some teams that have punched their dance card, Lipscomb. Do many people know much about Lipscomb? Can they name their mascot? Probably not.
Can they even name where they're from?
They're from Lipscomb. I don't know. They're the Bisons. But they're 25-9. They're a good team. This is not one of these 13-14 or 13-15 type teams that just get hot in the tournament and make it. Are they going to win their first round game? Probably not. But they're going to give it a hell of a lot more of a run than one of those teams that just got lucky in the tournament. They deserve to be there. Lipscomb's in. Drake is in. Drake is 30-3. And Drake's not new to the tournament. This is their 8th appearance. 30-3. High Point is in. They're 29-5. This is High Point's first appearance. Lipscomb's first appearance. Out of the Sun Belt, I think Arkansas State was probably the best team in the Sun Belt, but Troy got in. Troy's a fine team. They're 23-10. They're in. There's a couple duds. St. Francis, who's 15-17, got in. I think that's just not great. But I mentioned Robert Morris. That's a solid team, 21-13. Out of the Horizon League, UMC Wilmington is 27-7. That's another solid team. McNeese, out of the Southland, just improved to 20-1 in conference. That's the Will Wade team. They're in the finals tomorrow. Hopefully they get in. I think that we have a chance to where, I'm not even saying they're going to pull off upsets, but you're going to see better first round games because your 14, 15, 16 seeds are teams with 25, 26, 27 wins and not a team with 12, 13, 14 wins. So makes me look forward to the tournament a little bit more. And I hope that, some of the people out there who are just tuning into college basketball for the first time this year will do a little research on these teams and appreciate the seasons that they've had.
I think McNeese is going to be live. I mean, I think getting it last year helped them. They beat North Texas. Good win. Yep. That's a good win. I think
they're a very good team.
I think they're live. Akron, another team. Very, very good team. Even if Kent State gets in, Kent State went down to Auburn at the beginning of the season, played them tough for a half. So I think there's a lot of good teams. I think that's a great point that you made.
Mississippi, McNeese, when you look at their very few losses, by 3 points at Mississippi State, by 4 points at Liberty, by 8 points at Alabama, top 5 team. I mean, and then in the conference, they're just smoking everybody. They dropped one game out of 20, and it was a bad loss. But
even I mentioned UC San Diego. UC San Diego went to Utah State and won at Utah State. So I mean, I think teams like that are gonna. I'm gonna have a futures on McNeese and UC San Diego and probably Drake to make the Sweet 16, just because I think they're gonna be able to make a run. My takeaway: Marquez a fade for me in the first round. I love Shaka, but they're just consistently make basic mistakes, struggling with execution. 241st in the nation in rebounding since February 1st. They've dropped to 340th in rebounding per Bartovic. The entire offense is just jump shot reliant, no other way to score. 342nd in free throw rate for the season. Due for positive shooting regressions, but the road performances have been unreliable. It's hard to trust them in these tough environments. Shaka Smart, usually, he excels in the underdog. One of the best coaches in the country is an underdog.
Right.
But as a favorite in tournaments, 3-7, he just struggles as a favorite in these tournament settings to get the cover. Cam Jones, is he a great player? Yes. This year, ball in his hands way too much. Last year, when they had, what was that kid, the white kid's name, Tyler Kornock or whatever, the offense kind of filtered through him. Jones playing off the ball more, looked a lot better. This year, ball's in his hands. It's just not flowing as well as it's done in the past. And when I was putting this all together, guess who they're projected to play in the first round? Utah State.
Oh,
You know what? That's going to be like what?
That's for people that know college basketball. That'd be must-watch TV. I mean,
I would love Utah State. They play Xavier. Like I have Xavier to win the Big East. I think Xavier could win the Big East. I bet them to win the Big East. I mean, I think they're live. Line's 2.5. I don't know. I just think Marquette to me is just fade city. Bonus bet time. You have a future, and you know what? I love this one because I have the future on this team to make the Final Four.
Ooh, I like it. All right, I'm going with Texas A&M to win it all. And do I think they're going to win it all? Probably not. But at this price, what you can do is you can hedge if you get them going deep. And they're going to be favorites in their first. They're projected around a 3 seed. They'll be favorites in their first two games. They're a really streaky team as of late. They won 5 SEC games in a row and followed that up with 4 SEC losses. But since then, they've won 2 in a row. One of them was – so after that losing streak, tough teams, by the way, at Mississippi State. That's a top 25 team when they played them. Tennessee, top 5 team. Vanderbilt, we just talked about being a good team. They're borderline top 25. That was a 2-point loss. And then they lost to Florida, who's projected to be a 1 seed. They turned that right around and played the number 1 team in the country in Auburn and beat them by 11 points. Then they beat LSU by double digits. So I'm starting to think that they're heating up again. We'll see what they do in the conference tournament. Doesn't change my opinion. But when you're betting the long odds like this, I love a streaky team. You're going to need somebody that can get on a roll, and they're going to be, like I said, favorites in their first 2 games. And after that, they're in the Sweet 16, and you can start hedging if you want to because you're getting just incredible odds.
What do you need in March to have success? You need rebounding. They're one of the best rebounding teams in the country, and you need guard play. Wade Taylor, primetime Wade, phenomenal point guard. And you have Phillips, whose name Zurich, 2 guys that can create off the dribble. And the thing that's really, really, really scary about Texas A&M in my eyes, they yet to have that good shooting game all season long. They are due. And by worst fears, it happens in the SEC tournament to go on a 3 to 4 game stretch where they just are money. And I like this one a lot. And, I want to ask you this question before I let you get going. A team like what in your eyes, when we look at the quote unquote power conference, I'll say the ACC out of respect, ACC, Big East, Big 10, Big 12, and I say the SEC or not? SEC. Out of those conferences, if you're like Michigan State, St. John's, any team in the SEC, do you want to have a deep run, or are you just kind of want to get the feet wet a little bit? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You want to go
I think the SEC teams are primed for a run. They've been so many of those teams would be at the top of a different conference, and it's just been an absolute.
No, what I'm saying is, do you want to win your conference tournament?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? Do you want to beat up on, that beat up, and then have that flip turnaround?
Yeah, if I'm A&M, I just won 2 straight. I don't want to win 4 whatever. Their format's a little funky. 4 more straight, and then go into the tournament and have to win 6 more straight. I mean, NC State did it last year and made it all the way to the Final Four. But no, I'm fine with winning a couple games, making a good making a good showing yourself, lose a close game to a good team, get a little bit of extra rest. I've seen some statistics that you end up much better off than winning your conference tournament. Quick point on A&M. You mentioned they haven't had their best shooting game yet, and you mentioned their rebounding. When they beat Auburn, who was number 1, and really easily won that game. Auburn shot better than them. Auburn shot 50% from the floor, and A&M shot 43%. Auburn shot 41% from three to A&M's 36. A&M still handled them, and it's because of rebounding. A&M on the offensive rebounds out rebounded them 22-9. On overall rebounding, 39-24. That, you can have an off shooting night and still win a game by double digits, because look, second chance points, 29-11. You win every time if you get 29-11 second chance points. I think that they are going to be an absolute menace in the tournament, and defense and rebounding travels. We get into a lot of these teams. They're going to be playing in not basketball arenas. They're playing like football stadiums and bigger arenas. It's very common for teams to have bad shooting days, especially in the first round. A lot of guys like to bet first half unders in the first round for that reason. And you know what? What doesn't matter? Rebounding. I mean, that's always going to be there. If they're missing shots, rebounding matters even more.
And Buzz is good. I don't know, like,
he's good.
The Auburn game, he was literally calling out what Auburn was going to do.
Yeah. He's a very good coach.
Insane. And you hit the nail on the head. You get these big arenas, for the later rounds, and it just depth perception's off. It leads to some rebounding. So
the Final Four this year's in San Antonio in the Alamo Dome. It's a football stadium. I mean, it's a legit football stadium that they go put a little tiny, looks like a postage stamp when you're actually there, court out there. It's just insane. Like, it's terrible.
So, like, for me, what I always do is I have been to the United Center for like the Elite Eight, the 16, fun as hell.
Yep.
Like, I'm going up Friday, the first day. I'm going up to Milwaukee for like the day session. Fun as hell. But you can see shit. You know what I mean? I feel if I go to the Alamo Dome, I'm not going to see jack shit because I'm going to be so far up there. You know what I mean? Like, it's just.
Well, it's also a weird depth perception issue because the court, and there's like seats that are almost like lower than the court. So if you get too close, then you're staring at their sneakers. Yeah. And if you're too far up, then there are ants running around on a tiny court. It's not worth it.
Paying money to watch on the Jumbotron.
100%.
I mean,
I have friends that went when Texas made it to, maybe it was the Elite Eight that year, I think. But it was way back. TJ Ford days at Texas, 05, I think. And I think the Elite Eight was at the Alamo Dome. It might have been the Final Four. But they were basically just like, never again. Even if it's my team, I'm not going back. It was awful.
That's just brutal. It's just, but again, like when it's in an NBA arena,
perfect,
phenomenal.
Yep. But they can sell 60,000 tickets to this.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about that cheddar, man. All about that cheddar. Tyler, I'd like to thank you for coming on, talking a little hoops. Always a pleasure. Went an hour in. Felt like we're talking for 20 minutes. Always enjoy having you on. Why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on social media and how they can become part of your VIP service?
Yeah. At King Midas Bets on Twitter. I keep saying that I'm going to do better about posting. Every time I come on your show, I say I'm going to do better about getting on TikTok and Instagram and all the other things, and I never do. Find me on Twitter. It's just easier. I travel a lot for work. And if you want some plays, I got free plays that are coming out a couple times a week on Twitter. And then if you want all the plays, I send out between 1 and 5 plays a day. And in my Twitter bio, there's a Dub Club link. Signs up, you automatically get the plays however you want them. And we're rolling into MLB as soon as college basketball is over, and had a great MLB season last year. We went on a just absolute tear in July and August that made it a very, very profitable season. So maybe we can be back on and talk a little bit of baseball.
I am definitely
college basketball's over.
Back on talking a little baseball. Yeah, dude, MLB, man. I started doing my future prep over the weekend, and oh my God, I have too many futures I like, man. It's one of those things like I start doing my research on the teams. I jot down a little note. Oh, I like this. Next thing you know, I got like 30 futures down I like. And now I have to like dwindle them down even more, man.
I'll give you one. Cubs to make the playoffs, minus 180.
Oh,
They're a playoff team this year.
no, they're not, man. Cubs ain't a playoff team.
We're a playoff team this year. I'm going to give you the homer play. Cubs making the playoffs.
I live in Chicago, man. They ain't making the playoffs, dude. I would hate for them to make the playoffs.
Playoff team because the Central is going to be ass. That's why.
I'm telling you, man. I think the future I bet, obviously everyone knows this. Brian Wu, Cy Young, 40.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a Wu fanboy. I think that the bet I like the most, I think I got what I get at plus 130, 140. Houston Astros not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in Houston now. Bregman and talks of Altuve playing left field, and there's just a lot of weird stuff coming out of Houston right now. It wouldn't surprise me because I could see in that division the Rangers and Mariners both being better than the Astros. And
the Rangers are good, man.
I mean, they're not that far removed from winning the World Series. And I don't expect the Mariners to be great, but I can see them being better than the Astros. I think the Astros are going to be very average.
Mariners have arguably, the best pitching staff in the game.
Exactly. Yeah.
We could probably stay here another 3 hours talking about MLB.
We'll get back on for baseball soon.
I'm going to let you get going. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, and we will talk soon, my friend.
See you.